Hi YouTube, Unkert here. In this video, I'm going to talk about some loops in Python. Okay, so I'm going to create a new file. Let's call this loops.py. Okay, and let's close out the side here. And I'm going to start by looping through a string. So I'm going to create a string, my underscore str equals, and we'll do hello, my name is Tim. Okay, and we can loop through a string with a for loop. So we can say for character in my string, we'll put a colon after that, and then we indent for our loop. So the code that's in the loop will be indented. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if character does not equal the period, so the last character, what I'm going to do is print the character, and I'm just going to create the end with an asterisk like that. Okay, so we're going to have an asterisk separating each character. Now, if it is the last character, we'll just do a normal print like so. So we get the new line and all that good stuff. So let's open up the terminal. Let's run this. Okay, and so you see it prints it out with an asterisk between each character, including the space here. And then we have the new line at the end there. So that's something fun you can do with for loops. You could also loop through a range. So I could say for I, or whatever you want to call the variable, in range, let's do 101, okay? And let's actually give a beginning argument. So we'll say 1 to 101, which is actually going to go through the numbers 1 through 100. And let's do fizzbuzz. So we'll say if I modulo 3 equals 0. So if the number is divisible by 3 and 5, you print fizzbuzz. If it's divisible by only 3, you print fizz. If it's divisible by only 5, you print buzz. This is kind of like an old coding challenge. It's fairly easy, but it's still fun to do. So if I modulo 3 equals 0, so it's divisible by 3, and I modulo 5 equals 0, well, what we're going to do, let's do a print, and let's do an f string, and we'll pass in the variable I, so we know what it is, and we'll say fizzbuzz, okay? And then we'll do an elif, and we'll do I modulo 3, so if it's only divisible by 3, and you want the condition where it's divisible by 3 and 5 first, because let's say it's only divisible by 3, and you have this condition first, it's going to pick up on this condition, and well, if it's divisible by 3 and 5, it would pick up on this condition if it was first and skip this one. So you want the condition where they're both divisible first. Okay, so anyway, so we're going to print an f string here. Again, we'll pass in the variable I, and we'll say just fizz. Okay, do another elif I modulo 5 equals 0. Do another f string here. We'll pass in the variable, we'll print buzz. And then finally, if it meets none of those conditions, we'll just print the character. So we can do fizzbuzz this way, all right? And let's run this. Okay, and so I don't know if you saw that, but we're going through and we're getting all of these numbers. So you see 1, 2 fizz, 4 buzz, 6 fizz, 9 fizz, 10 buzz, 12 fizz, 15 is divisible by both, so fizz buzz, so on and so forth. Pretty cool. Okay, so yeah, that's fizzbuzz with a for loop. Okay, we can also with a range. This is kind of cool. So what we could do is let's go to the beginning here, and what we can do with a range is we can have a start, a stop, and a step. Okay, so one thing we could do is we could sum up the even numbers through 100. So let's say for I in range, we'll start at 0 and we'll go up to 102 because we're not going to have the last number. So we want to get 100, and we'll do a step of 2. And above this, let's just create a variable. Let's call it sum, set it equal to 0. So that would have a global scope there. And then we can say sum plus equals I. Okay. And then let's go down here and let's just print out the sum. Okay. And let's run this. All right. So run it. We get the sum of 2550. So that's the sum of the even numbers from 0 to 100. Cool. So that's something we can do. We can also go here. And what we can do is we can do a factorial. So let's say 5 factorial would be 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, which is going to be 120, which I showed you with the math module, I believe. And that was a previous video. What we could do is we could say for I in range, and we'll do the start of 5, stop of 0 because it's not going to include 0, and we'll do minus 1. So we'll go down as we go. And let's go up here. We'll create a product equals 1 because we want to, you can't multiply by 0. It's going to give you 0. So we're going to say product, and then we'll do an assignment operator. The multiplication equals I here. And we'll go down here and we'll print out the product. Okay. And when we do that, we should get 120. So let's run this. And we get 120. So that's one way of doing factorials. Another way, and I'll show you, this isn't necessarily related to loops, but let's just show you. So let's create a factorial function. So I'm going to show you something, a recursive function. So I'm going to say num, and I'm going to say if num is not equal to 1, then what we're going to do is we're going to say that let's create a let's say that num equals the factorial function num minus 1. Okay, and then otherwise, and we want to we want to return that. So let's return. So we're going to recall the factorial function there. So that's why it's recursive, because you're calling the function. Otherwise, if it is 1, we're just going to return 1. Okay. And I don't think this is going to work, but I think I messed it up. But anyways, let's run it. And we get nothing because we haven't called the function. So let's print factorial and do 5. And let's run this. And we get 1. Yeah. So we have to do... we have to return num times factorial num minus 1. And then we have to return num times 1. Let's check it out. Okay, so yeah, there we go. That's what I messed up. And I probably want to format this a little bit better, get the spacing good. Okay, so that's the recursive function. Haven't done that one in a while, but anyways, I figured it out. So it basically, if it's the number's not 1, it calls a function. So if you pass in 5, it goes, 5 is not equal to 1. So we do 5 times factorial 4, and then it goes to 4. Okay, 4 times the factorial 3, 3 times the factorial 2, 2 times the factorial 1, and then we have 1. It just returns the number at this point times 1. Okay. Anyways, that doesn't really have much to do with loops. It's a little bit of an advanced topic, but I thought I'd show it to you anyways. Okay, so that's for loops. Let's do while loops, okay? So while loops will need an index. So let's just say IDX for index equals 0. And we can do a loop. We can say while, and actually let's do 1. Let's do FizzBuzz this way. So we'll say while IDX is less than or equal to 100. And then what we'll do, okay, get some spacing here. What we'll do is we'll say if, we'll do the same conditions. If I modulo 3 equals 0 and I modulo 5 equals 0, we will print an F string where we pass in I and we print out FizzBuzz. Okay. Then we'll do elif I modulo 3, that equals 0. We'll print an F string where we do I and we do fizz. And then we'll do I modulo 5 equals 0. And we'll print an F string where we pass in I and we do buzz. And then finally, we'll do else. Oh, and it's not I, it's IDX. Let's give me a little warning here. So let's do IDX, 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 and IDX. Okay. And otherwise, we will just print IDX. Okay. And we're going to change this here as well. Now, if I were going to run the loop as is, we'd get an infinite loop because IDX is always going to be less than or equal to 100 because we're not changing it. So what we got to do is we got to increment it. So we can say IDX plus equals 1. So it's going to increment each time through the loop. All right. All right. So now what I'm going to do is run this. And we see, when we run this out, that we got FizzBuzz again. Okay. So that was doing it with while loops. Okay. Cool. All right, so let's close this out. Now we could also create a function to find the sum of the first n natural numbers. So let's do that. So we go up here. Let's delete everything here. And let's create a function sum of n. And we'll take in a number and we'll have an index equal to 0. And a sum equal to 0, and we'll say while IDX is less than or equal to num, we'll say sum plus equals IDX, and then we'll increment IDX through the loop, so plus equals 1. You don't have to call it IDX, I'm just using that. You can call it index, you can call it I, do whatever. And then at the end, we'll return IDX, okay? And so what we could do is we could ask the user, and we could prompt them. We could say, this program finds the sum of the first n natural numbers. Okay, and then let's just do a print here. We'll do my equal signs, just kind of separate it. And then we'll do another print, and we'll do my spaces. Just nice formatting here, blah, blah, blah. We'll make a user interactive program. And now let's ask them for the number. So we'll say user underscore num equals int, because we want an integer. We'll do input, what value of n do you want it to calculate? And I'll say something like enter an integer. Okay. And let's format that. Okay, so that looks good. Notice when I did my IDE, it formatted it so we have the 2 spaces after the function here. So that's my program. And now what we want to do is we want to print out the value. So we'll say, do an F string, and we'll say the sum, that's kind of annoying there, the sum of the first we'll pass in user num, natural numbers is, and then we'll call the function. So sum of n, and passing in user num, okay? And put a period at the end there, okay? All right, and let's now run the program. So Python loops. Okay, so what value of n do you want it to calculate? So we could do the numbers from 1 to 100. And that should be, okay, so something is not working. So first off, it should be is. Okay, so let's take a look at what's not working in our program. Is, okay, so user num was 100. And let's see, what do we get for that? Let me just run this again. Do 100. We get 101. Okay. So sometimes you have to debug these things. So I have idx is equal to 0. Sum plus equals, we've got to return, the sum, okay, not idx. Okay, now it should work. All right, so let's run this, and let's do 100. I think we're going to get, 50-50. That's the sum. Now, FYI, if you're doing this and you want the most efficient way, and again, this isn't necessarily to do with loops, but you want to use a different method. So we'll redefine this, and we're just going to return num times num plus 1 divided by 2. That's the actual formula. So this, if you know anything about big O notation, this is big O of 1, where the other one was big O of n, which is less efficient. Okay, so again, we could just take any user num. I'm not going to make the program all nice, but we're going to say int, and then in that we'll do input, enter an integer, okay, and then we'll go down here and we'll print, do an f string, and we'll say the sum of the first, and we'll do user num, natural numbers is, and then we'll call this function sum of n, and we'll pass in user num. Okay, put a period there, and let's just format. All right, cool. So let's run this program now. Enter an integer. We'll do 100, and we see we get 50-50 again. Now we get 50-50.0. If we want to just have an integer, that's always going to be an integer. We can do the floor division. Okay, so let's run this now. So now if I pass in 100, I get 50-50 without the 0.0 at the end. Anyways, I think that's going to conclude this video. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.